Hey, what's up? This is what I called 49ers Coast to Coast last week. So I'm gonna stick with that because it's a C plus name. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jason Aponte. And we're gonna be talking about Niners for a while, maybe about an hour. We got 6 topics, and then we'll take some questions. We're just gonna start with the news of the day. As ridiculous as it may be, I don't know, maybe it's legit. Everyone seems to be connecting the Niners to Darnold, like all over the league, nationally, in New York, around here. So this morning, I'm seeing Rich Cimini in New York saying he's predicting Niners trade a second and a third for Sam Darnold. How you feel about that, Jason? And how you doing?
I'm good, Grant. So Rich Cimini, actually, to give you a little bit of background, because I live in the area, he's actually pretty tapped in as far as the Jets guy. So he's not a guy that's just like, he's not Manish Mehta, who's somebody who doesn't have credentials and just lies. This is Rich Cimini. So Rich Cimini, if he's saying this, he's heard this from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Do I feel comfortable with it? I don't. That's a lot. And I know that second and a third, those aren't, as valuable as first, but that's a lot, man. Look, here's the thing.
I think it's a lot.
Yeah, here's the thing. With Darnold, it's complicated because I sent out a tweet. I spent a lot of time just watching a lot of Darnold throws because, again, this is part of what we're doing at this point. So if a trade does happen, I have to be able to analyze it and be objective, right? Mm-hmm. He has dazzling throws.
He does.
Like, seriously dazzling throws.
His highlights, you can put them together, and there's a bunch of wild plays where he's moving and on the run,
So first I start with the good throws. And I'm like, okay, you take notes on those and you say, okay, this is good, this is good, this is good. But then you get to the bad throws. Whoa.
Yes.
So the bad throws are decision-making. And something that I did when I was watching the tape with Vish, actually, because we sat together and we watched it, because I always like to get, I love to get a second pair of eyes on film.
Me too. Jackhammer and I do that. It's a lot of fun. What are you seeing? And you check each other's biases and all that. Yup.
Right. And he pointed to feet. So feet are cemented to the ground. The footwork is scary. The thing is he gets by on some of these dazzling throws with arm. And then sometimes he's just attached to the ground. That's scary. Now, again, the thing with Darnold is
he's still not a polished passer, is what
right.
I'm telling you.
So are you going to take a chance on the fact that you think you can unlock whatever you think you can unlock from him? Or is he damaged beyond repair? Or maybe he's just this guy. That's what makes this scenario so interesting with Darnold, because that's what people – so when people say he's an upgrade over Jimmy, I think they're taking into account potential as opposed to what they really see. You know me, Grant.
Yeah.
I like to go with things that I know. The unknown is scary to me, because I'm not good at predicting things.
Yeah. So well, let me tell you what I think about Darnold. Look, I'm not writing Darnold off for the same reason I'm not writing Josh Rosen off. We're going to talk about Rosen later. He's a kid, and he's played for a terrible organization. He gets those excuses. All I'm saying is a second and a third. I mean, Alex Smith netted the Niners a second in 2013. At that point, Alex Smith had developed into a winning quarterback. He won 13 games in 2011, and he was really playing well in 2012 before he got hurt. Darnold hasn't shown that. Darnold's still a project. He's still a total projection. So how could he be in the same ballpark in terms of what you have to give up? Second and third just seems rich. Now, if he were on the Jets practice squad and the Niners could sign him off of it the way they signed Rosen, yeah, absolutely. Maybe put him on the Niners and he improves. But my issue here is the price. And maybe that's just a Jets reporter inflating a Jets player's value and not really understanding what the guy's worth on the open. Second and a third? No.
Yeah, that's a lot, honestly. But like I said, Rich Cimini is tapped in. Like, that's somebody who's not, saying things for no reason or anything like that.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, physically talented, yes, for sure. But we all know that there's more to this position than just that, And I'm just scared that maybe Adam Gase and that offense and that Jets culture has damaged him beyond repair, like completely. But listen to this, though. Kyle Shanahan loves him. And if you need any sort of reassurance of that, just go to his press conferences right before the Jets game. That man is singing his praises in a way that I wish he would sing his own quarterback's praises almost. If you listen to what he said.
Do you remember off the top what he said?
Mobile, big arm, everything that you like, it's all there. Like, he's saying things like that. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it felt like that.
I'll pull that up a little later. But Vish found a clip of Mike Shanahan on the Colin Cowherd show breaking down these quarterbacks. And I feel strongly that Mike Shanahan is basically he and Kyle are the general manager of the 49ers, that Kyle trusts Mike's opinion on players as much or more than anyone. And remember, Mike was a vice president of player personnel for a long time. He's a general manager, so he has very definite opinions and experience. And he said about Sam Darnold, loves him. He does everything. He's an All-American guy. So, yeah, it seems to me that if Mike Shanahan's enthusiastic about him, then so is Kyle Shanahan. Then again, if Kyle Shanahan's enthusiastic about Darnold, I would think that so is Robert Saleh. I mean, do you really have a life-size picture of Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan having a major philosophical difference on an offensive player?
No, I mean, and then just listen to what Saleh said when in his press conference. That was him. He was the same way with this praise, and he immediately, that was one of the first questions. And Saleh was just out there like, I love everything this kid can bring to the table. Again, I think his thought process is the same as everybody else. Get this guy in a Shanahan system where you can get him some open throws and maybe you'll unlock something with him. And I think that's what Saleh was thinking. Saleh didn't take this job without the idea of knowing that Darnold's probably going to be the guy, right? He was prepared for Darnold to be the guy. Whether he ends up being the guy or not is different. But worst comes to worst, Saleh took this job thinking as a safety net, Sam Darnold's going to be my guy. And you have to think about it in that terms because he actually really, really praised him a ton. When I heard that, I was like, man, this isn't coach talk, right?
Because Big Gold Nuggets in here saying it's coach talk. No, because Kyle doesn't talk that way about Jimmy. He doesn't talk that way about every quarterback, only the ones he really likes. He wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to his feelings about players. It's obvious.
Yeah. And yeah, of course. And like I said, you have to think, okay, even if you go through your interviews and you're thinking, whatever, we're going to move this guy, you still have to have a safety net of this might be the guy anyway. And you might have to actually stick with him too. So Saleh didn't take this job thinking, yo, we're booting him. You keep his trade value up with where you're talking. But honestly, man, the way they talk about him, they both talked about him in the same way with all that sort of praise.
Do you think Robert Saleh in his interview with the Jets got the job by saying, yeah, my plan is to go in here and just blow it up and trade Josh? I mean, trade Sam Darnold. It seems like the way you get that job is to say, I got a plan for Sam Darnold. We can salvage Sam Darnold. Let's not just give up on this. I like him. Isn't that the kind of things that get you hired? I don't know.
Yeah.
As opposed to the guy who says, no, this sucks. Let's blow it up.
When you invest the third pick, right, you want to bring in a guy that is going to say, I'm going to fix your guy and we're going to make this work, right? Like, you don't want to say, exactly. It's not,
and I'm coming in here and we're starting said is, hey, don't listen to these offensive coaches who say he can fix them. That's what Gase was. No, what he needs is a defense and a running game. And that's what I can bring to help him. Hey, that's the way I look at it. Now, we got another Darnold topic because, as I mentioned, a lot of people are connecting the dots here. Samini said a second and a third. Bleacher Report said Jimmy Garoppolo and a fifth, which is much more palatable to me. What do you think?
So, but what's the Jets thought process here? You bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And also, Jimmy Garoppolo has to waive a no-trade clause to go to the Jets.
Why would he want to go to the Jets?
I don't know. Unless he wants to purely keep his money. My thing is,
who do you throw to there? Braxton Berrios?
Well, it's going to be like Jamison Crowder and Brashad Perryman, and Denzel Mims is good. Mims is good. I don't think that Denzel Mims matches up with his skill set. Denzel Mims is a bigger guy, a little bit of up,
outside
50-50 guy. Right, yep, and a 50-50 ball guy, like where you throw it up and let him get it. That's not his game. Nope. My thing is this. If you trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, what do you do with that 2 pick? Are you just shopping it now, or are you going to take a quarterback and have him sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo?
That's awful. That's a terrible plan, yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. So you're going to
run with Jimmy want to go to the Jets? He doesn't. Why do the Jets want Jimmy Garoppolo and that contract? I mean, why would anyone want Jimmy Garoppolo in that contract?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, and then it's for me, it's not the trade itself. It's what's the Jets plan? What do you do here? You're going to get Jimmy Garoppolo and then draft the quarterback and have him sit behind? I don't know if that makes sense. If you're going to do that, just take Zach Wilson and Justin Fields and throw them out there first day. Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me if you're gonna move off him like that. That's the part that I get confused about.
And again, we're talking about how if Kyle likes Sam Darnold and Robert Saleh probably does too. Well, the flip side of that's also true, I would think. If Kyle has been complaining behind closed doors about Jimmy Garoppolo, and we think he probably has, and he's right, we agree with him. Don't you think he shared his opinions with Robert Saleh? Don't you think Robert Saleh probably agrees? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because like you said, there's no philosophical divides between Saleh and Kyle, right? They have to think about the same things and think about guys the same way. So
look at Saleh's coaching staff, all Shanahan guys. At no point did Saleh put together an offensive staff that was like, you know what, I'm going to do something a little different. No, it is Kyle East. So all of a sudden he's going to be like, yeah, but I want your reject quarterback. Maybe.
Yeah, tough. I don't know about that one. That one, that Jimmy and fifth one, that's not happening. That's not happening.
For a lot of reasons. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I've been talking about Josh Rosen a lot. He's a very interesting case. And I've been asking all of my guests what they think because I'm trying to get as much information as possible because honestly, I don't understand. I've never really seen the NFL give up on a top 10 pick before he turned 24. It's quite remarkable. So, Jason, please explain what's going on there and what you see from this kid.
So when Josh Johnson was added to the practice squad, I started banging the table. If we're bringing Josh's in, why are we not bringing in Josh Rosen? Because I know what Josh Johnson is. Josh Johnson is not an NFL quarterback. Do I know what Josh Rosen is? I don't. And here's why. Look, 1 year of being stuck in Arizona with Mike McCoy as his play caller, and then he gets dumped to Miami. He doesn't start in Miami. Then when he's thrown in there, Miami's roster is barren. And they're not, they weren't where they are now. They were moving in the right direction. But look, is there a world that Josh Rosen's bad? Yes. Can I say that certainly? No. So this is why I advocated just bring him on the practice squad and see what happens, right? Here's the thing. If you want to see some big boy NFL Josh Rosen throws, it's so funny to me. It's his first start ever.
Yes.
Incredible. In his first start ever against the Seattle Seahawks, which at that time still had Earl Thomas. That's the game where Earl Thomas flipped off the bench.
Oh.
So that's the same game. There are some big boy throws on tape there that, you even sit there and say, wow, there it is. Having said that, that's the only game that I really have seen those sort of throws.
That's true. And all I'm saying is, look, he hasn't played well in the NFL, but neither is Sam Darnold, right? I mean, to me, they're the same, except Sam Darnold has been on one bad team and gotten every benefit of the doubt, whereas Rosen is done. And I'm thinking, like, what is the difference? What is the difference? Maybe it's that Darnold's a little bit more mobile, but that's not it. I don't think it has anything to do with the physicality. I think it has to do with their personalities, whatever the hell that means.
It could be that. I think that if you ask me who has the bigger arm is Darnold. Also, don't discount the fact that people, once you get with Adam Gase, will automatically give you a pass saying you were stuck with that dude. And because, look, Ryan Tannehill played well in his first year with Adam Gase, but clearly you saw when he got away from him, he was good. Devontae Parker got better. Pretty much anybody who had issues with Adam Gase when they got away from him, they ended up playing well. I think that's sort of the thought process with Darnold, where everybody says, "Hey, man, Gase is too much to overcome." The game planning, the way, and that's fine. But the same thing can be said for Josh Rosen.
That's what I'm saying. I have a feeling that Josh Rosen wouldn't have been afforded the Adam Gase excuse. And then I keep coming back to why. What is it about Josh Rosen? And what is it about Darnold that everyone's like, hold on, give him one more chance, give him one more. And I honestly, let me just say, I think it comes back to their personalities, whatever that means. Sam Darnold is an all-American kid. He's blonde, probably Christian, just an all-American normal guy. Nothing wrong with that. Rosen is an LA Jew. He says he's not Jewish, but he's ethnically Jewish. He looks Jewish. He sounds Jewish. And in the NFL, it's like being a Martian. Like I think he's a Martian.
I think really what it is that picture of him in that little hot tub indoors. Like that one, I would look at that and say,
I just feel like people look at him and they're just skeptical. Like, I've never seen anything like you. There's no precedent of a person like you working in the NFL. So I'm going to nitpick you to death. I don't like this about you. I don't like that about you. Like, and you always hear people say, like, he's rich. How much does he really love football? Like,
I hate that.
Jimmy Garoppolo is rich. Jimmy Garoppolo has $100 million. And I haven't really seen him fighting to play. But everyone says, no, you don't even ask that question for him. Why? Because he's Italian? Because he grew up working class in Chicago? What? So really what you're saying is, hey, man, this kid's Jewish. Like, does he really want to play? Is he tough? Does he love football? Like, he just played on a practice squad for you. I feel like these questions are very coded, and it kind of annoys me. I'm like, come on, man. Come on, man. If his name
seems like it annoys you.
If his name was Josh Darnold and he had blonde hair, and it'd be like he'd be getting a lot of belief from people. I don't know.
They're in similar situations, right? Because I think, to put a bow on everything is that There's potential. Who can tap into it? And will you take a chance on that? And I think that sums Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold up at this point. They're both in the same draft class, right?
Yes, and they played. I mean, they played in the same city. Josh Rosen was more highly regarded coming out of high school. And I'm gonna finish it with this. The last thing that Mike Shanahan said about them that really stuck out to me. This was in 2018. He said, Josh Rosen has the best arm I've ever seen. It's better than Troy Aikman's. The thing about him is he's rich. You don't know how much he loves the game. You got to find that out. And it wasn't like a damning thing. It was just like, I have a question. That's what the league has. Then he goes to Darnold and he goes, yeah, everyone loves Sam. Coaches love Sam. Teammates love Sam. It's like, okay, all-American kid. Have you heard a bunch of teammates in the NFL saying, I love Sam Darnold. He's great. I haven't heard that. He's a young kid who needs to prove himself. Have you heard a bunch of teammates in the NFL say, Josh Rosen is a weirdo. I can't play with this dude. Like they talk about with Kirk Cousins. No.
One more funny thing. Larry Fitzgerald loved Josh Rosen.
That's what I'm saying.
Like loved him, and that's something that I had to look up myself. But his quotes on Josh Rosen were through the roof, and he only played 10 games?
That's right. The other thing Mike Shanahan said about Josh Rosen, he likes politics.
What?
Oh my God. He likes politics. Like basically he's smart. He's a free thinker. He's liberal. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, great.
None of that. That's not any way to evaluate a quarterback.
Anyway, the final thoughts. Hold on. We got some Darnold questions. I'm just saying, like, why trade for Darnold when you got Rosen? I don't even know that Darnold's any better than Rosen. All right. Scott says, Jimmy helps the Jets establish a new offensive system, and the Niners get cap room to sign Trent. That's a very expensive guy to establish a system. I mean, like, you could get Hoyer to do that for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I mean, that was kind of that. So my point about Sam Darnold being here is this: look, if Kyle Shanahan can get the same throws that he can get for Jimmy and Nick and CJ for Sam probably hits those with giving you a little bit more upside. Again, though, it's risky. It's not easy to just say drop Sam Darnold in here. I will not confidently say out of my mouth ever that I think that Sam Darnold is an upgrade, because I can't say that because I don't have enough evidence of that. Is it possible? For sure. But I think that you're taking a chance on that potential. Just know that the floor can fall right out of everything if you cannot tap into that potential. This is really, really risky, because if you make this move for Sam Darnold, Kyle Shanahan, and you don't put it together and have a team that's competing the way that everybody thinks they should, that's going to be an issue. I don't know if I could take that chance.
And here's the thing, like, if you bring in Darnold, I think he's going to fall out of favor for the same reason Jimmy did. Turnovers, because this team is set up to have a top defense and a top running game. So the quarterback's always going to be in a position of don't mess it up. You can be as good as you want, but you're not allowed to turn the ball over because you're going to be the one who loses the game. And that's the way it went with Jimmy. That's the way it went with Nick Mullins. I mean, people had no patience for them. It's like, dude, you can't be turning the ball over. The rest of your team is too good. So if Darnold comes over and continues to be the turnover machine he is, it's like, well, man, you're ruining this. Same thing goes for Josh Rosen. Ultimately, the quarterback of this team is going to need to be somewhat this
you know what I mean? This offseason is super critical.
Yes.
This offseason is critical. No matter what Kyle and them decide to do. If they want to run it back with Jimmy, they bring it down. This is critical. You have to hit this year. And what I mean by hit is not Super Bowl. You need to show that you can put together another winning season. And we'll get to it a little bit later. I know you're trying to tell me to chill, but yeah.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yes, for sure.
Kevin says Shanny doesn't have the opportunity at a second pick quarterback, though. Maybe his mind would change if he had the opportunity to pick Wilson.
If he did, but he doesn't.
So I guess he said, no, what Kevin's saying is here's why the Jets might be interested in trading Darnold. Even though Kyle likes him, Robert likes him, theoretically, they might prefer Zach Wilson. In that case, Robert says, let me hook you up, Kyle. I'm going to get Zach Wilson, you get Darnold. Are you that certain that Zach Wilson's the second best quarterback in the draft, though?
No, the second quarterback in this draft could be anybody.
It could be anybody. And if you think you know who it is and you take that dude at number 2, you are probably playing yourself, as the great Ice-T said.
Wait. I know who it's not going to be. Mac Jones.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
But, it could be Fields. It could be Wilson. It could be Lance.
It could be Trask. It could be Mond. It could be someone I don't even know. It's a mystery to me. I think it's a mystery every year. Basically, beyond Trevor Lawrence, good luck, dude. You might be getting a straight up bust with the number 2 pick. Are you really confident enough to take him there?
And all quarterbacks are going to be overdrafted because they're quarterbacks, right?
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Like Mac Jones might end up at the end of the first round. It's going to make me vomit.
Yep,
and it might just because people don't want to wait for their quarterback. And it's just like, that's the thing with this. See, this is why I stay away from evaluating college quarterbacks because it's hard. It's a super crapshoot. Man.
And again, the demand for the position leads every team to overrank these players. Like, oh man, he looks like he might be able to do it sort of one day. I got to get this guy. Like, all right, man, well, you take him with the 10th pick and see how that works out. Anyway, all right, so we did our Rosen spiel. See, now I'm even playing into the Jewish thing. I got to stop. All right, so now I propose. I've been saying this on YouTube like all week, and people on YouTube like the idea, but I first broached the topic on Twitter last night, and it didn't go well. A lot of Jimmy Garoppolo fans still on Twitter, and they were like, wait, excuse me? So I'm going to throw it out to you. Do you think Kyle Shanahan should just open it up to a quarterback competition this offseason? And if he did, do you think Jimmy Garoppolo would win it?
Grant, I got to tell you, man, you are a master of making it happen on the timeline and stirring it up. Right?
It's hard to do in February, but you got to do something.
You got to do it, right? So I saw it and I said, you know what? I guarantee tomorrow I'm going to have to talk about this. So I've gathered my thoughts pretty well on this.
Thank you. Okay? Hey, let me mute myself. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So look, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. The potential for Josh Rosen is probably bigger, right? But I
think most people can agree on that.
Yeah, the floor is lower. Same thing with Darnold, right? Here's two reasons why this won't happen and he would never win a competition.
Okay.
One, financially, it makes no sense. If you open this up, right, for Jimmy and Rosen, and let's say in a world Rosen outplays Jimmy, and you say Rosen's a starter, $27 million on your bench. Malpractice. Absolute malpractice.
Yeah.
The second thing, if Josh Rosen wins this and you bench Jimmy Garoppolo, you cannot get a thing for Jimmy Garoppolo. Not a thing. Not a thing. No one's going to say, yes, I want to trade for the guy that couldn't beat out Josh Rosen.
Dude, that ship is sailed, man.
Yeah, it's so, and then think about it. If you wait for camp, you've already passed that post-June 1 cap hit. So let's say you cut him. You're going to eat a ton of that money. So look, I love the idea.
He's a good backup quarterback. He has experience in that role.
That's my point, right? Is when I talked about Rosen coming over here, it was just, hey, see what you can get. And if you strike with lightning in a bottle, cool. But as a backup, I have no problem with it. Just there's no way, Grant, that this happens. Ever. You're
right. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let me just make the case of why it should. I know it's not. And you just laid it out perfectly. All the politics and economics of the reason prevent it from happening. I just feel like if Kyle had the stomach to do it, I think there's a real chance Rosen would win. Let me say why. Look, I've watched Jimmy Garoppolo in every training camp he's been in. He's not a good practice player. He used to have this reputation as being better in the games. I mean, John Lynch just talked about it. He's a field player. He's good when the bullets start flying, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's not really the case anymore either. I mean, it didn't look that way against Arizona this year. So he struggles in practice. He doesn't execute very well. I mean, honestly, Nick Mullins executes better than him in practice. So if that's what Josh Rosen is working against, I think it's an open competition. I think anyone could win. I've never seen Josh Rosen practice in the NFL. So really, I don't know what he can do. And maybe there's some people some beat writers in Miami right now being like, Grant, stop. Dude, you're freaking wrong. You don't know what you're about to see. I don't know. All I know is I've seen Jimmy in practice a lot. And it seems to me that if Nick Mullins can make it look interesting, I'd like to see what Rosen can do.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a little bit of time trying to watch Rosen because, again, the one thing that I'll always give you credit for is run through the argument both sides.
Yeah.
Even if you're not on one side, run through both. So, okay, I wanted to give Rosen all the benefit of the doubt. Let me take a look, right? Because I wasn't as familiar with his tape on both years. Yeah, like I said, his first game, that's the best game that he's ever had in his career. And then it's just other times you're like, okay, well, is this Mike McCoy? Because remember, when they ran the ball, it was basically David Johnson running into the center's back 35 times.
It was 3 years ago, but I do remember that. And they would show like the run charts. It was like, oh my God, it's just 17 runs in the same direction. Wow, Mike. Yeah. See, I'm telling you, man, if Sam Darnold had Mike McCoy, people be talking about that.
So again, it all boils down to what do you know and what don't you know? And look, maybe God willing next year for training camp, I'll be credentialed and I'll be able to watch Josh Rosen to, play and everything, and I'll get to see, but I don't know, man.
Okay, let me have a follow-up question because
Sure.
I don't want this question to be about Rosen.
Okay.
I want this question to be about Jimmy. Forget Rosen. Should Jimmy have to compete for his job this year if they bring him back with someone of your choice? Or should it, he's making $26 million. We just can't do that.
No, he can't compete, right? You can't put that out there about a competition. If you want to do that internally and not tell anybody, okay, cool. I think if you bring in somebody like Fitzpatrick, you're basically putting yourself with a safety net. Fitzpatrick's going to cost you nothing. You still run Jimmy out there. If he struggles, you can pull him. Or if he gets hurt, you have a capable backup. I don't see them doing a competition. You do a competition like that, and you have basically kicked away any sort of value that you can get for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's it, man. And that's the best way that I could put it.
Devil's advocate argument here. He has no value. That's gone. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, all right. While I would agree with that, and that's a good point, I just feel like there's always 4 or 5 coaches or offensive coordinators that say, let me get my hands on this guy and I can fix him. There's a lot of egos in the NFL. So there's someone out there who thinks, yeah, man.
Where are the offers, man? I don't think the offers are coming. You think he would have to stay healthy for a whole year? He would have to prove a lot. I don't think they. Okay, but I see what you're saying. Look, we'll see. I just feel like for the good of the team, create a competition. For the good of Jimmy, create a competition. If he wins it, great. Because honestly, I want to see him fight for his job, dude. I'm not sold that he really wants to play football. People say that about Rosen. I see it when I look at Jimmy Garoppolo taking notes. It's like, dude, come on, man. Do you really want to play? Are you going to fight for your job? I'd like to see him fight for it. I think handing it to him is the wrong message. But, I see what you're saying, man. Financials, the politics.
And you have to think about the other guys in that locker room, I think, too. Like, when you do that, like, how many of those guys – I'm not tapped in. I don't know, their opinions, right? But, with a guy who got you, was the quarterback of a team that made the Super Bowl, if you turn around the next year and say Josh Rosen, who has, 10 starts, 12 starts under his belt, we're going to roll with this guy. Think about the guys that are there trying to compete for a championship. Now, what are you telling them? It's like, man – he better do something in practice that makes them feel like this is exactly like he would have to dominate in practice, like completely dominate to make that happen, or dominate on the field. I have a hard time seeing that.
Okay.
I have a hard time seeing that.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. Other big news, and this looks legit. Russell Wilson went on Dan Patrick's show and was like, yeah, I'm tired of getting hit. And when they asked him, are you on the market? He's like, yeah, I don't know. That's a Seahawks question. And now the report is that the Seahawks are upset with Russell Wilson. And this may be a divorce coming up. I don't know. We'll see. Do you think the Niners could even get in the conversation and pull off a trade for Russell Wilson, or should they?
No. The Seahawks would let him hold out and sit there the entire time before they ever send. Even if the 49ers came to them, 35 first-round picks. I mean, they'll probably say yeah to that. But I mean, it's just I don't see that happening. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to think that.
So how does it play out in Seattle then, if in your opinion?
They come to terms. They figure it out. The thing is this is a point that I saw you make that I thought was a great point. You can't pay O-line because you're paying Russell Wilson.
Yeah, man. That's the point I would make if I were the Seahawks. Like, dude, now you have a problem. You didn't have a problem cashing that $35 million check, but now it's an issue. What's your solution, Russell?
Here's my thing, Russell Wilson. You need to take ownership of the fact that you hold the ball too long sometimes. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. Offensive line is designed to block for whatever, but when you're running around and you're not hitting your first read and you want to throw one of those moon balls, how many of those sacks are Russell Wilson's fault? It wasn't a Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl thing where it was hut and they're already on him.
Yes.
It's you get to your read, you don't like it, then you start scrambling and then you get hit. Yeah. That's your fault.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with Russ. So I'm so surprised that, one, he publicly said this. Two, blaming the offensive line completely when you have a lot to do with this as well, my friend. And the play calling does too, right? Like, why are you calling all these deep shots down the field? Like, remember, let Russ cook in early in the year? You kept doing that, and people figured it out. And DK Metcalf even said, I forget which interview it was. Yeah, they figured us out. Halfway through the year, they figured us out. They threw Brian Schottenheimer under the bus.
Yeah.
Like, they figured us out. All we wanted to do was run, and then take deep shots. And that doesn't work. There was no creativity to the offense. So, yes, he's frustrated because he's taking hits, but he needs to own his part in this as well.
See, to me, I really think that this is could be an irreparable divorce. It seems to me that Seattle is finally figuring out that they can't win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson. They've tried. They've been trying. When did they give him? When did they make him so rich? Like 2014, 15? I mean, they've been trying for 6-7 years. It doesn't work. They've tried different coordinators, different offensive lines, different receivers, different defense. It doesn't work. And I think Russell Wilson is looking at it like he's looking at Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl and thinking, well, I can't win. I'm in a similar situation and I can't win, whether or not he's right. I think both of them are looking at the situation being like, this isn't working. So that's where the Niners swoop in. If both people want out, I think what Seattle is thinking, what they should be thinking is, when did we win a Super Bowl? When we had a dominant defense and a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. I'm a defensive coach, Pete Carroll. I'm not equipped to coach a $35 million a year quarterback. I'm equipped to coach a good young quarterback and a great defense. That's their formula. Send Russell Wilson to a coach who knows what to do theoretically with a great quarterback. And how about Russell Wilson for Nick Bosa? Straight up. Is that enough to get it done? Send the guy a defensive player, man. Let Pete Carroll make a really bad decision.
I might say this and get killed for it, but I think that the best way to utilize Russell Wilson was the way that they utilized him in his rookie year and his second year. Play action, not a lot on his plate.
On the Niners.
Well, no.
I'm just saying.
It's not a hypocrite.
Play action, yes. Under center. Don't put him in shotgun and tell him to run around and throw 50 times. No.
Mm-hmm.
Put him under center and let him be Jimmy Garoppolo plus.
I mean, that's when they were most successful, right?
Yes.
Legion of Boom, defense, play
with him. Paying him all that money, you got to use him more.
Right, and then that's the thing, right? When you attribute all that money to him, you can't have him be like a guy who's just doing those simple things, right? Like you expect when you pay somebody that is to uplift everything.
Exactly.
And I think and I think the Super Bowl, right? Deshaun Watson's year, right? Russell Wilson's last few playoff appearances are big bullets for the people who say just having a quarterback alone won't get it done. Even the great Patrick Mahomes needs help. Even, Russell Wilson, needs to dial back the way that he runs this offense, right? That's the thing, right? And I think that's what I really gathered from the Super Bowl is that there was enough energy on both sides. If you want to say pass rushers blow everything up, you can. And if you want to say that even Patrick Mahomes needs help and you can't sell the farm for somebody like Watson or one of those guys, you can. So you have both arguments in the Super Bowl. I think a lot of those people can take whatever they want to fulfill whatever narrative. And I think that's really what's going on with Russ. Like he can't do it alone. And if you saw that Patrick Mahomes can't, then I don't think he can.
Do you think the Seahawks would trade Russell Wilson to the Jets for the number 2 pick to take Justin Fields?
Say that one more time.
Do you think the Seahawks would trade Russell Wilson to the Jets per se to take a guy like Justin Fields? Would Pete Carroll do that?
Who's their offensive coordinator now?
On the Seahawks? Dude from the Rams. Dude from the Rams. Some guy from the Rams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll be running a little bit more of a Shanahan style offense, right?
Yes.
Nah, I think they'll stick. Look, they're gonna figure it out. They'll figure that out. And again, the Shanahan portion of the passing game is going to be very easy. They're going to give him those simple throws. Yes, there'll be those downfield throws, but it's not going to be so much like run, only look downfield. Russell Wilson will be able to navigate through that, and he's just got to get better with getting rid of the ball, man. Like I understand when you're running around and you make those plays and everybody's like, oh my God, did you see that dime? More often than not, those aren't the plays that you want to see, right? So that's the issue. I think that they stick. They have to figure it out. They'll figure it out.
Sean says, aren't you afraid that the Wilson, Watson, and Rodgers situations can push the NFL to where the NBA is irrelevant, controlled by players bratting out? Wilson wants to be involved in personal decisions. Bad look for the NFL. Well, it seems to me that the NFL created this issue because the NFL keeps wanting to pay quarterbacks more money, and now they're getting into the 35, 40, 45, $50 million a year range, which is right where James Harden is, Stephen Curry is. And it's just the reality of the financial. If you pay a guy that much money, he's your team. Yeah, he's going to want personnel decisions. Yeah, he's going to want to know, have input on who the GM and head coach is because he's making more money than everyone in the organization except for the owner. So he makes more money than the GM and the head coach combined. I mean, it's just the way. It's just life. You don't want your head coach. You don't want your quarterback to have that much input. Get Marcus Mariota. pay him $10 million. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Right. And it's funny, right? Because I'm not against that idea, right? Like if you're going to be in these, Russell Wilson's your franchise quarterback and he should be involved in that. Like, hey, look, not straight up, I don't want this guy, but hey, here's my input, right? And that's the problem with the Texans, right? Deshaun Watson didn't ask to take over the process. He just said, can you at least interview one guy for me? Can you at least interview? And they were just like, nah, don't care.
Imagine Steph Curry, like Steve Kerr retires or gets fired. And Steph Curry goes to Joe Lacob and be like, hey, would you just interview one guy for me? And Lacob goes, who the hell do you think you are, Steph? Who the hell do you like? No,
I'll never understand that.
He's your franchise. And again,
even if you don't like the guy, interview him to placate your and then tell him that this is what went wrong. Come on,
put the guy interview with him so he can hear why he's not going to get the job. Put him right there. I'm sorry, Steph Curry would get this type of power on the Warriors because he's earned it and he's getting paid that much. He's a C-level employee in the organization. So is Wilson, so is Watson. Technically, so is Jimmy G, which is another reason I think he needs to go because he can't be a C-level employee anymore. He hasn't earned it. Anyway, Abel says, can the Niners go for Watson 2021, 2022? I feel like we answered. Anyway, can the Niners go for Watson 2021, 2022, first-round picks, Jimmy G and Mostert, replace Mostert with Gore on a minimum? Would you do it? Jason?
I mean, I would, but they wouldn't. I mean, I don't see them.
Houston's a team that's not going to budge.
That's the thing. So that's been my thing the entire time. I swear that I said that earlier, and you know what? I'm going to take my victory lap because I get so many things wrong that I'm going to lap up the one thing I get right. The Texans are just going to wind up keeping him. Yes. And if he wants to hold out, this is going to get ugly where he'll hold out and lose all that money. And you know why the Texans will let it happen? Because they're a poverty franchise. Their ownership does not care about players, clearly. When you see Andre Johnson, who never speaks, tweet out things like that.
He's the greatest Texans player of all time, and he has no respect for the organization.
None at all.
It's like Jerry Rice saying, hey, the Niners are a bunch of bums. Like, ooh.
J.J. Watt, pissed. Arian Foster pissed. Literally every single good player who's ever walked through those doors for that franchise does not like him.
Also, the only thing, you say they're a poverty franchise, they are. The only thing that keeps them semi-relevant, Watson.
Yep.
So you trade him. Now you really are the worst franchise in the league, and you're 0-16. Everyone says, what would the Texans be if Watson wasn't there? 0-16. They know that. So they can't trade him for like 2 firsts and a third. No.
So compound the Texans' stupid thought process and compound that with Caserio coming in thinking that he's Belichick and he's going to introduce the Patriot way. And if he doesn't want to be here, I don't care. We don't need him.
Yes. Exactly.
That's why I think he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, sorry. I wouldn't be surprised if his situation is similar to Kaepernick's in the sense where, or like you're going to have to lose a couple seasons of your career if you're that committed to walking away from the Texans, because they're going to make it hard on you, man. They might make you sit out a year or two. Like
it's all about who blinks first. And I feel like the Texans are,
they have a lot more money.
Insane. What is it? The inmates running the asylum, all these things. It's all right there in front of you that this franchise is being run poorly. They will continue to make poor decisions, and they will not do what's right for this team. And you know what else? The fan base is still going to get out there and support them. So as long as they got money in their pocket, they really don't care about doing what's right by a player. And that's unfortunate, but that's just where I'm at with it.
Also, he signed his big extension, but he hasn't gotten his big money yet. He's made $40 million in the NFL. That's great. But he's on the verge of making what, $400 million? He hasn't gotten any of that. And he won't get it this year either. The extension kicks in 2022. They have a little more than a little leverage over it. You want to get that money? Or do you want to retire at 25 with $40 million? What do you want to do?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just scared that the Texans are just going to Texan it up and they're just going to keep him there, like just to prove a point. Again, Caserio wants to. It's all about the culture. Do your job. You're not Bill. You don't get that equity when you just because you work for Bill. Bill gets that because he did it over years.
Right.
Just because you work for him, you can't just walk in and say, we're the Patriots now. No.
And that's the mistake that every single Bill Belichick disciple makes, except for maybe Brian Flores. I'm going to come in here and be Bill Belichick. No one respects you. Like, I don't know who you think you are.
And the thing with Brian Flores is that quiet confidence. Like, he's not in there with that rah-rah stuff. He's in there like he commands the room. Like, that's what I noticed in the Senior Bowl. When I was out there, dude, he starts the practice and then he breaks it down. And that's it. But everybody, when he talks, is like, you know why? Because his presence. But Matt Patricia, with his pencil in his ear, yelling all that, you don't have that presence. Your voice doesn't command the room. And that's the problem. Brian Flores is different because he embodies that defense and what they did so well, which was, you never heard Brian Flores' name the entire time that he was there as a Patriots coach.
Right.
But his quiet confidence is what people are drawn to, and NFL players can smell the BS.
The final thing with this Watson thing, like in the NBA, the team would, once the superstar wants out, the team always capitulates because they don't want to develop. It's a superstar league. And you don't want to get a bad reputation with the superstars. If you like keep some superstar hostage, then word will get out. Don't play for them. Don't go there. And every team wants to be like, hey, you know, we're okay. Thanks for coming here. It's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to work with you. Any other superstars that want to come here, we're player friendly. NFL isn't like that at all. Yeah. So it's really more in the Texans' interest to not blink and not set a precedent and not create the impression among future players they can do something like this. They have to nip this in the bud.
Just like Caserio. Just like Caserio. That's it.
That's where they're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. We can't let this happen.
Yep.
It's a better precedent to make him sit out than for us to blink.
Yep.
All right. Final question I got for you. And I think this is the question I'm most interested in asking you. A lot of people know you as the creator of the Only Shans movement, which is just freaking hilarious.
Co-creator also, though. I can't take all the credit, but yeah.
Who else?
Me and Jordan.
Okay.
Splash Cousin.
Hilarious. Splash Cousin. Shout out Splash Cousin. He's great. So Only Shans, if you don't understand the concept, it's like OnlyFans, but for Shanahan fans, you know, because the idea is that his play designs are obscenely good. You know what I'm saying? And they really are. So my question to you is the co-creator of the Only Shans movement starting to lose confidence in Kyle Shanahan?
I'm not, because the front office isn't. If there's one person that I know is going to be here for a little while, it's going to be Kyle. I'll tell you this. I'm not losing confidence in Coach. I am afraid of Jed and the higher-ups panicking and making a move based on, 4 losing records, 5 seasons. Okay, so have I lost confidence in Kyle? No.
Okay.
Am I confident that they will see him through? That's where I get a little nervous.
You know who got fired after 4 losing seasons in 5 years in his first stint in Cleveland? Bill Belichick. That's right.
So this is my biggest fear. This is a nightmare that I have. You know the Dwayne Wade commercial where he wakes up, out in cold sweat? Here's my fear. The 49ers get rid of Shanahan. He goes somewhere else and wins that championship. And I have a nightmare of seeing him in another team's jersey, raising that Lombardi, knowing that it full well could be us as long as you see it through. Look, is Coach perfect? No. Has Coach made some oversights and sometimes I don't agree with his personnel decisions? Yeah, I do. I have issues with it at times. But I still have belief that because of his system, and another thing that I want to point out is, think about how many teams are trying to replicate Shanahan's system, right?
True.
We're going to move from 7 to 10 teams now that are going to be running some variation of Shanahan's system. It's a copycat league, and everybody is trying their best to copy him. My fear isn't in him. I've not lost an ounce of confidence in him when it comes to play calling and play designing. I'm just afraid that if we get another year or two of subpar results, that something drastic happens pretty quickly, and then the fruits of his labor will be seen somewhere else, that's my biggest fear.
Okay, first off, the quarterback issue is his issue. His inability to find an answer at the quarterback position has to fall on his shoulders. And is that causing you to lose confidence in him? I mean, I know you like his play designs and his system, but ultimately it's not going to work without the right quarterback. And he could have had Stafford. He could have had Brady. I mean, he keeps passing and waiting and waiting.
So I think the one that I feel the worst about, the Brady thing, I think was more, again, I think it was more about like the money didn't line up. Like, it's not that it didn't, it's not that I'm like, oh, we're good on you. It's just, we're good on you at this price, which, right now, they just raised the trophy. Right now, that looks bad, right? I am more worried about the waiting for Cousins and not evaluating Mahomes and Watson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that really kind of bothers me more, because you could have had either of those guys for cheap, for 4 years.
Didn't you want them to go after Stafford?
I did too. I did. So see, but here's the problem with that. The conflicting reports. I know that everybody thinks that there was no offer made. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I really don't. And it's hard to take things at face value when one person says something, another person says another thing. We're hearing different things. So for me, when I hear that they didn't put an offer in, I don't know how much I believe that. I really don't. And one thing that I want to put out there, and I'm not trying to put on a tinfoil hat, your favorite media members, they're not always reporting exactly what happened. Sometimes they're fed something to say, and this is how they continue to be in good standing with teams. They are mouthpieces for people in the organization to put fires out.
It's true.
Because they can go to the negotiation table and say, see, this guy said we weren't involved. We weren't involved. I promise.
Sure. Yep. That's
my issue with the Stafford thing. I'm not going to kill him for that because, one, the Rams probably overshot any sort of offer. And two, I don't know if there was no offer made. So I do want to see them swing big. I would love that. That's, I guess, what your point is saying with that. I would love them to swing big. But the Cousins over Watson and Mahomes thing, that's the one that bothers me the most of all of the quarterback decisions, if you ask me.
Okay, one more question. You mentioned that you love his system. And it is the system in the league right now. It's trying to be replicated all over the NFL, and the system is important. It is important. But I got to say, in every sport, not just NFL, the mark of a great head coach is a guy who doesn't have a system, but a guy who builds it for what his players have. I'll give you an example. Nick Saban, okay, great coach. He's a defensive coach, right? Every year, his defense gives up tons of points in the big games. You know why? Because he has 5-star quarterbacks. He's winning with offense. He looks at his recruits and is like, you know what? We don't necessarily have to win with defense. And he can build championship teams in a million different ways. And, all the greats in all the different sports can do that. My question with Kyle is, Kyle, like John Gruden, are you a system coach? Is your number one contribution to this team a system? If so, great. You're a hell of an offensive coordinator, but you're not a head coach. What do you say to that?
No, I think he is a head coach. Look, again, learning people. Here's my point about this. Andy Reid won a Super Bowl last year, right? If he doesn't win that Super Bowl, what's the reputation around Andy Reid? And he's been in the league how long?
Hey, man, I'm not very high on Andy Reid right now. Right now, I'm looking at him as like, dude, you coached like crap in 2 Super Bowls. And the difference is your great all-world quarterback bailed you out in one of them. That's the way I look at Andy Reid. I'm not impressed.
So if the 49ers win that 2019 Super Bowl, can't manage the clock, can't win the big one, he's been in the league 20-something years. I think that people want to rush the process because Kyle's a genius and everything. Oh, in 5 years, you haven't done it yet. Well, how many people won a Super Bowl in their first 5 years? And it's hard to find those guys. There's John Gruden won a Super Bowl, in his 3rd year as a head coach? But there's context around that. That's not, that he changed the culture there. The Bucs were an amazing team, had one of the best defenses of all time. And the truth is,
it was his second team. I mean, he had been with the Raiders. Yeah.
And the truth is, like you said, John Gruden's an offensive guy. The truth is, and nobody ever wants to remember, is Tony Dungy's offenses actually scored more points than his offense. But again, that's my problem. When you're a coach and you're not good at one thing, the thing that you're supposed to be good at, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Okay. Final question. If Kyle brings Jimmy Garoppolo back for this season and he gets hurt again and the Niners go 7-9 or worse, 8-8 or worse, will you at that point lose confidence in Kyle Shanahan?
I won't, but they will.
Okay.
That's the thing. I think, when the Super Bowl happens in 2019, you just start to expect, all right, this is where we're going to be every year, right? He hasn't out this year. Everybody was injured. So that's another thing, right? So you have to put that into context. So look, I won't lose confidence, but again, my confidence will wane because of Jed York and their decision-making. And sometimes they don't always make the right decision when it comes to coach, and coach will end up being somewhere else. Like, look, if Kyle Shanahan, as much as we just talked about, if Kyle Shanahan was booted today, how many franchises are lining up to have him as his coach?
A lot.
Probably 28 to 30. Right?
Yes,
that's my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me put it this way. Final question. Is there anything Kyle Shanahan could do in the next 12 months that would have your confidence waver in him?
If I see you, playing like Brian Allen, if I see, because he's in charge of personnel. A lot of people want to give solid crap about that, but that's not the case.
True.
When you hear that Brian Allen is up for that game, that's not good. Sometimes with because I don't have a problem with the pass calls, right? Like he's calling wide open throws, it's just not being hit all the time. I think the quarterback situation, like if it's not addressed, and it doesn't get any better, like look, if Kyle wants to roll with Jimmy, cool, but you got to make it work. Yep. It's on you. Okay. Right? Whatever decision you make, it's on you, and then you got to deal with the consequences. If you run with Jimmy, it's on you.
That's what I'm asking you. I think that's fair, man. You bring Jimmy back and it works out, great. But it doesn't, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to, because I'm not in the only chance, but I do respect him. He's very good at what he does. But if he brings back Jimmy Garoppolo, and we all know how he really feels about him, if he brings him back like holding his nose and it doesn't work out, I'm just starting to lose sympathy. Sorry, man. It's who you wanted.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and that's the thing, right? So that's why I said this is such a crucial offseason. No matter what he picks, okay, Kyle, I trust you. But if you don't make it work, then you got to know what's coming next. And that's where things will get a little hairy. So
yeah. All right. Before I let you go, we have a couple of statement questions. Jake says, if we trade Bosa for Wilson, Bosa will go against McGlinchey twice a year. Ooh, that's a good point.
Good.
Maybe don't do that.
Good grief.
Maybe don't do that. Yeah. Sorry about that, Jake. Braden says 2021, 2022 first round picks. I love people like, no. We're going to find the correct package. Don't give up on 2022, 2021 first round picks, 2021, 22 second round picks. Eric Arm said Jimmy Ward, and if need be, Mike McGlinchey. Right, because Mike McGlinchey is the cherry on top that teams want in a package. Braden, I love your stick-to-itiveness and your passion, but really, Jason and I feel very strongly that the Houston Texans are basically going to spite Deshaun Watson unless there's an offer that is irresponsible from some team. And the only team that makes moves like that is the Rams, and they've already made their irresponsible move of the offseason at quarterback. I don't see any team doing it. The Niners, it's not what they do. They traded a 2 for Jimmy Garoppolo. They traded a 2 for D Ford. They traded a 3 for Trent Williams. They're not going to trade the whole team for some guy who wants to tell Kyle Shanahan what to do.
The other problem is righting the wrongs of not drafting him, right? That puts you in a hole now. You should have drafted him is when you can build around him, right? Now you would trade for him, and now you have to try to build around him without those high picks. That's when things get a little bit hairy. So, I mean, it's just, I get scared about righting wrongs, right? Like if you missed out, you kind of missed out, but it's tough. Like I said, no matter what decision he makes, this is the most crucial offseason that he's going to have. He has to nail this one. He has to nail this quarterback. And that's when things will get hairy.
It makes you look like you have no conviction. You didn't want him in 2018 when he was sitting there, but then 3 years later, you've changed your decision 100% or whatever. You've changed your mind so much that now you have to give up 8 first-round picks for someone you could have had for 1 3 years ago. Yeah, it looks like you're wishy-washy. It looks like you stand for nothing. So, yeah, easy. It would have been easier to just trade for Stafford. But hearing that he had a partially torn UCL, hey, man, Rams.
He played through it. He played through it.
He did play through it. But again, Rams, best of luck.
Yeah, I mean, they, the offensive line is an issue. Whitworth is not there. So, but I still have a tough time thinking that this offense that was still so good with Jared Goff can't, automatically be better. But again, playing through injuries still means that he's injured. So that's a good point.
2021 will be the revenge tour for Jared Goff.
Please don't say those words. We're
done. But if he did get the last laugh, I would enjoy it. I don't know why. Just because he got discarded so hard this offseason. Like, what happened to Jared Goff is going to happen to Jimmy Garoppolo eventually. And it's going to be very hard for Jimmy. And I don't know what Jimmy's going to do about it. I don't know if he'll soldier through the demotion to Detroit the way Jared Goff is going to. And I am pulling for Jared because
they slandered him out the door. They slandered him out the door, man.
Yeah, to the point where he had to like clap back through his agent and be like, well, let's talk about Sean McVay's offense that never revolves. Like, oh, I liked it, man. I can't wait for that if it happens with Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan. We can only hope, keep our fingers crossed that only Shans delivers the way it always does with that premium content.
I'm riding with Coach. Until he's not the coach no more. So
here's how I know that you'll be off. Here's when I'll know that you're off the bandwagon. When you start calling him Kyle instead of coach. As long as he's coach.
I'm glad you noticed that. Because that's why I do it. Why I do it. Because Jimmy calls Bill coach and he calls him Kyle. Well, Kyle's coach.
That is all you need to know about their relationship, right? When he was talking about Bill in the lead up to the game, coach, I was like, why is this sticking out to me? What? Oh, it's that he doesn't call Kyle. Imagine calling your former coach. It's like in Cobra Kai. If one of the guys in Cobra Kai kept calling LaRusso sensei, like, no, you can't do that, dude. That's your sensei now. That is no longer your sensei. Bow to your sensei. Okay.
Jason, I'm so happy that you watch Cobra Kai. That's so funny, man.
Me and my wife started watching it a couple weeks ago, and it's a great, awful show. I mean, it's not a bad show. The fact that they got all the actors to come back and do their little parts is cool. I like it. I just wish that the show kept going on. There's a lot of great denim jackets, black ones, light blue ones.
See, I don't know if you mean that. And you know what? Me coming from the East Coast, the denim jacket's a little bit of a staple. We'll have to have a different discussion about that.
You got Tim's? You got Tim's?
Come on, man. I'm from the East Coast. Of course I got Tim's.
I got to get some Tim's because no one wears Tim's out here. It's just Vans. I got to get some Tim's. Anyway, man, this was great. Thanks for coming on the show, bro.
Thank you, Grant, as always, man. It's always a pleasure, man.
All right, man. We'll be back soon, most likely. I'll be back later at 1 with the All 49ers crew and Big Face Kev at 3 o'clock. You won't want to miss that one. Take care.